Religion is a necessary education for understanding history, society, culture, and the modern world. The world of religion is filled with many words, concepts, people names, and other proper names and special terminologies due to the accumulation of history. However, there is also a lot of information that is not necessarily essential. Religion is an imaginary world of spirits and gods, something like a spirit, a god, or a law of reasons is latent, present, the obvious actives in the universe. Humans realize in their power, follow their will, adhere to their teachings, and try to realize their maxims. Since they are co-subjective, conceptual worlds that have been historically constructed, they have a wide variety of contents depending on regional differences, cultural differences, and genealogical differences related to the histories. The major religions all preach love and compassion and encourage the peace. But the details are all different, and the worldviews and the object of allegiance support the reader group belief or difference, which can cause frictions between religions. Sometimes the religions that preached advised that religious speech that love and peace justify the fighting. Religions are full of contradictions. Human logic often runs into contradictions. It may be inevitable in a sense that the logic of God, as it is projected into the heavens, is full of contradictions. Religions, though diverse, all play similar roles. The three main functions are performing miracles. Religions all over the world claim to heal the sick, to bring the good fortunes, and to rid the world of evils. Jesus is said to have healed the sick and even resurrected the dead. Esoterics as a Buddhist practitioners as offer blessings and brings back to life, to dispel, to drive away to evil spirits. These are, of course, unscientific stories. Practices based on unscientific beliefs are called witchcraft, magics. A large part of the function of religion is witchcraft. Offerings to the dead is also witchcraft, and praying to heaven is often done with a spell like consciousness as the spell of invoking good fortune from heaven through the prayer. Today, in the developed world, religion has not become a mainstream social force. Nevertheless, it continues to function today generally in the following ways. As a basis of culture, societies have not yet embraced the result of science to a great extent for several centuries. Religion forms the basis of culture in the form of idea, vocabulary, and customs. The Japanese have largely forgotten Buddhist doctrines, but still have a more Buddhist or Confucian's way of thinking that Westerners emphasis on trainings and disciplines, tendency to view the world in an impermanent, not permanent rather than constructive manner, emphasis on hierarchies such as seniority and juniorities, senior and priorities. Many Westerners no longer go to church, but often these prayers. Christianity is they value charities, inherited Christianity, apocalyptic longings of hope for building their future utopias. The base culture is the first to be reckoned with, which is why it makes sense for people who consider themselves personality non-religious to study the history and the teachings of religion in an educated way. Restorative religion is no longer a picture of the past. Other partial supply of former religions functions. People suffering from serious illness, absolute poverty, or other hardships have the right to turn to miracles as a spiritual last resort. Also, where the state or corporate economy is not functioning properly, the reciprocal functions inversely the opposite, mutually corresponding the function of religion as are still appreciated. There will always be those who will accept the religious explanation for questions that cannot be rationally answered, such as what happens after death and the ultimate meaning of life. The traditional religions, which originated in ancient and Middle Ages at times when human productivity was low, adapted to those societies, basically preach the badge, worthies, merit of self-control, sacrifice, advocated the pursuit of peace of mind over materials as pursuits. Such teachings themselves are likely to remain buried in the future, particularly in the 21st century, when modern society, which has continued to make major changes to the earth, is now faced with a serious problem of global warming and essential the insight of the regions that desire does not bring about essential solutions should become more meaningful. Meditation, teaching of Eastern religions, for example, may be useful for calm observation of harsh realities. Of course, it is only partially true that religion will remain buried in the future. The way of thinking of ancient and medieval people, in which religion is the overarching the truth, the totality of everything from disease cure and rainmaking to guidelines for daily life, justification of social order, kingships to scholarly explanation of nature, and society has practically almost lost its power. Even the radical restorationists, religious fundamentalists such as Islam and Christianity, who were obsessed with the illusion of the past, have been working feverishly to revive these illusions using the modern weapons and modern information technology, such as the internet, to recruit ignorant young people. This is further undermining the discernment, gradual the wisdom, spiritual discipline that traditional religion have provided. The restorations of religion can no longer be a mere motif and a picture. This is a kind of prototype of philosophy and science. But since it only convinced, persuaded the people through their sins, it is undeniable that there are many uncertain explanations that are full of twists and turns from the viewpoints of developed philosophy and science. Artistically, however, it is an impressive explanations. The story of the sixth day as creation in Genesis, for example, is nonsense from the perspectives of Big Bang's cosmologies, but it makes an imposing impression as a single psychological drama. The ultimate explanation of theology is only meant to convince the individual of their personal feelings. Therefore, while saying it is ultimated, it is always shifting the point of view, making excuses depending on the situation. For example, they say that if you pray to God, you will be cured of your illness, but it is not cured. So they change it. The real logic is illness is a test of God. They also say that if one becomes enlightened, life's problems will be solved. But no matter how much he does zazen, Zen meditation, the problem of life do not clear up. So he changes his logic to true enlightenment is found only on Buddha. It sounds like the excuse that this kind of intellectual manipulation allows believers to awaken to the depth of life. There is a flip side to life. This empirical fact is also empirical observation. The experience of fact is also taught by theologies. But again, familiarity with such logics can prove the believers to deeper and deeper into thought, causing him to spend a lifetime asking himself the questions rather than solving life's problems. Only a few believers, those who love the rhetorics, will be interested in this kind of explanation. But as these elite believers becomes causes theologians, the religion will be passed on to the next generation. The possibilities and the limitation of religion in our time. These mechanisms of religion have been challenged enormously in modern times. With the development of science, witchcraft and miracles were shown to be illusions, and with the development of modern legal systems and the state with various institutions, religious precepts, precepted order, a command, rule of actions, and ecclesiasticals suitable for use in church. Ecclesiastical identities ceased to be the operation, the principle of the society as a whole. Theological explanations are also becoming less and less convincing. Such witchcraft has psychological effects, and in cases such as illness, it can be immensely effective. Psychological state that feel back to some extent and the physical state. And since everything is from business planning to government policy is always about predicting the future, there is always an element of wishful thinking that is not entirely scientific. The same can be said of religion symbolically, since every individual lives by the principle of hope, even though in the most hopeless situations have the right to hope. This can take the form of waiting for a miracle. Bringing its order. When people share the same mythologies, they can develop a sense of camaraderie. A spirit of friendliness and smooth cooperation, and partially manifested the utopias of mutual good deed. This gives the people purpose and pride in life, and a sense of identity. The creation of the system of mutual aid is an important function of religion, along with miracle. Humans share messes and create friends. It is said that the most important point that distinguishes humans from animals is the ability to create friends by sharing the myths, whatever they may be. Historically, the myth of major religions have given tens of thousands of millions of people identical identities that maintain the social order and the potential cooperation. To provide such order, religion often bind people with commandments over divine rules. The commandments are not always rational, since they originated in ancient times. Taboos have unknown meanings. Class discrimination, sexism, sexual orientation discrimination remains, but they are protected by divine authorities, so they cannot remain unchanged. There is a tremendous problem here. In addition, the sense of being part of the same religion increases the sense of exclusivity toward the outside world. This is similar to how a nationalist national consciousness evoked xenophobia. Religion asks, what is man? How did the world begin? Why is there good and evil? What happened when we die? And other highly philosophical questions. This is a so-called theologies. With the development of scientific civilizations, religion is no longer as important as it used to be. However, there is still a role for God, religions, explanation, the mysteries of the afterlife and other areas are still beyond the human knowledge and there. Understanding the religious beliefs of a religion also lead to understanding the ethnicity of the people who live there. In this age of globalizations, it is becoming increasingly important to learn about the religious beliefs of other countries. Judaism is one of the oldest religions in the world. The founder of Judaism is Moses. Born as a Hebrew, Moses led to the Hebrew people who were being held captives by Pharaoh of Egypt at the time to escape it from Egypt. Judaism was opened by Moses, who received the Ten Commandments. Judaism is characterized by Messiah, the one who will save mankind will one day come into the world and save the Jewish people. Judaism is also characterized by the belief that only those who believe in Judaism will be saved by the Messiah. Judaism also has numerous religious obligations and daily life, including dietary restriction, such as prohibiting the consumption of pork, crabs, and other crustaceans, as well as the weekly Sabbath worships. In the past, Jews were often discriminated against in Europe. One of the most famous cases of discrimination against Jews was the Holocaust, a state-sponsored persecution of Jews by the National Socialist Work Party, the Nazi Party in Germany in the 20th century. After World War II, Jews who adhered to Judaism decided to establish their own country so that they would never again be persecuted in the manner of the Holocaust. They founded their own state Israel on the land of Palestine, center of Jerusalem, a city at the east coast of the Mediterranean Sea, where their state had existed in the days of King David in ancient time. However, the land was already inhabited by Palestinians of Arab descent, and the establishment of the state of Israel and the harm of an invasion was met with opposition from the surrounding Arab nations and the Palestinian people. Thus, it can be said that Judaism is a rare religion that has continued to have a profound impact on world history from its establishment in the 13th centuries BC to the present day. Predecessor of Hinduism, the main religion in India today, it is said to have been established around the 13th century BC, when Indo-European ethnic group that invaded an Indian subcontinent took control of the Dravidian, who had already settled in the regions. Ancient dogs gained a thousand Indian members, distinctive the future of Brahmanism in the caste system. ancient Indians, according to their lineage of birth. Brahmath, the highest caste, the richer class. Kshatriyas, the royal and the knightly caste. Vaishyas, the merchants and commons. Shudras, the slave class. The four classes were called Varnas. These classes were completely hereditary, inherited the possessions, a title, with the rank of the parents being passed on their children's. Buddhism was a religion of ancient India. It is also one of the world's three major religions and has continued to exert a profound influence on the Asian region, particularly China, Korea, Southern Asia, and Japan from an ancient times to the present. It was founded around the 60th century BC by Gautama, who was born in the wealthy families of the Kshatriya class to the of India. Idea is that all suffering in the world is caused by desire. All suffering in the world is caused by desire. The ultimate goal of Buddhism is to attain liberations from the cycle of reincarnations and rebirth after death by living righteous through the practice of the Fourth Noble Truth and Eightfold Path. Although Buddhism's basic view on life and death, such as reincarnations, its teaching is extremely practical, and its deep insight into interpersonal relationships in particular is a wisdom that is useful even today. As of 2023, Buddhism is said to have over 500 million followers, and along with Christianity and Islam, it has spread to the point where it is considered one of the three major religions in the world. In Hinduism, the cow is considered as sacred animals. For this reason, many Hindus do not eat cow meat. The Ganges River is a major river that flows through India. Is considered sacred, and the people bathe in it to purify their bodies, as well as perform various other rituals. There are many different in Hinduism from region to region, and the degree of belief differs from person to person. So there seems to be a variety of derived rituals and ceremonies. For Indians, Hinduism is more a part of their lives than their religion, and it is deeply rooted in their ideology and behavioral standards. Confucianism is a religion that has been practiced in China from ancient time to the present. The teachings of Confucius, one of the hundreds families of the ancient Chinese, spread through China as a form of Confucianism. Confucius was born around the 6th century BC in Lu, a small country in China at the time. During his lifetime, Confucius trained more than 3,000 disciples, and his teachings, comprised by these disciplines, came to attract the attention, study, and the practice of the people in later eras. Confucius' teachings are not so much a religion that worships gods as they are philosophical and moral teachings and models that should be practiced in human society, mainly on love of family, love of neighbor. Confucianism is already spread to the Korean Peninsula and the Japanese archipelago, and had a profound ideological influence on countries of East Asia. The most important aspect of Confucianism teachings is the concept of benevolence. The content of benevolence is the importance of individuals' persons' personal integrities through constant self-cultivations with consideration for others first the foremost and by maintaining a harmony with society. The idea of right is considered equally important by benevolence. The content of lay is that harmonies in the world can be maintained only through the effort of each individual to maintain order. The teaching of benevolence and proprieties have a profound influence on narrative thoughts of the hundred schools of Confucianism. Confucianism was later suppressed by successive dynasties and regimes, and at the same time was protected by being included as a subject in national examination for Chinese studies. Among these family ties and respect for one's ancestors is still an important idea for the Chinese. In recent years, Chinese Communist Party, which has once again adopted a one-party dictatorship, has been tightening its surveillance of the regions and thought and the future of Confucianism is uncertain in many areas. Christianity is one of the three major religions in the world and has had a profound influence on later world history. Its founder was Jesus Christ. He was born to the woman named Mary around 4 BC in Bethlehem, Israel. His father is said to have been Joseph, a carpenter. According to the teachings, Mary was a virgin who had never had a sexual intercourse with a man, and the angel Gabriel descended upon her and announced the conception of Christ, the Son of Mary, and God the Father in heaven. After his birth, Christ is said to have changed his place of residence, spending his young in the town of Nazareth, also in Israel. When he was 30 years old, he began his missionary work. While criticizing the Roman Empire and the elders of Judaism, which were the ruling class at the time, Christ preached that the importance of love for one's neighbor, poverty, and repentance. He also began to perform the various miracles, such as healing the sick with a simple touch of his hand, and his followers grew in number. However, as Christ's power grew, the Jewish authorities of the time took notice of him. At the top of the hill, he is tortured by having his beard pulled out and being covered with a crown of thorns, and then his hand and feet nailed to the cross that he himself carried to the top of the hill. His blood circulations as stopped by the crucifixions, and his consciousness gradually fade. Jesus Christ crucifixions at the moment when the light of life is about to be extinguished. He cried out, God, why have you forsaken me? And died. The cross on which Christ was crucified severely punished at that moment because established a symbol of Christianity. Christianity teaches that Christ was executed because he bore the sins, original sins of all living people. Therefore, those who believe in Christ are free from original sin and are promised to go to heaven with Christ after death. After Catholic Church, the largest Christian denominations based on the Vatican and Rome. The Protestant Church, born out of the Reformation of Martin Luther in 16th century, is followed in Germany, Sweden, England, and other countries. The Eastern Shinto Church is practiced in Russia and other Eastern European countries. Shinto is a unique religion practiced in Japan. It is a nature worshipping religion characterized by the concept of 8 million gods, which means that even mountains, oceans, and even objects are inhabited by God. Among the Shinto gods, there is no specific deities, but Amaterasu, the goddess of the sun, was regarded as a distinct entity and direct ancestors of the Japanese Empire of the lineage. The Shinto shrines, sacred places of worships, have been established throughout Japan and have become a familiar part of Japanese life. The entrance to the shrine is usually marked by the gate called the torii, which is often regarded as a symbol of Shintoism. After the Edo period, from the Meiji Restoration to the defeat of Japan in World War II, Shinto was used by the government and the military as a means of unifying the nation through that becomes a home of state Shinto. Among the Shinto deities, there seems to be no specific main deity. But among the gods, Amaterasu, the goddess of the sun, was regarded as a distinct entity and a direct ancestor of the Japanese imperial lineage. Shinto shrines, sacred places of worship, has been established throughout Japan and have become a familiar part of Japanese life. Islam was established in the Arabian Peninsula around the 7th century and is now a religion practiced through the world. Islam was founded by Muhammad, a wealthy merchant in the Arabian Peninsula around the 7th century. Muhammad was born in 570 in Mecca, the poorest city in Israel, to the family of Quraysh. His parents died when Muhammad was 5 years old, and he was taken and then raised by his uncle Abu Talib, who was a merchant. Like his uncle, Muhammad became a merchant, married Hadija, a wealthy women's merchant, and they had children. However, on August 10th, 610 AD, 40 years old Muhammad died in the suburbs of Mecca. The original Islamic community, led by Muhammad, peace be upon him, took in the inhabitants of the Medina areas rapidly grew in power. After Muhammad's death in 632, Islamic power continued to expand with his successor. Islam is characterized by strict precepts and have been incorporated into daily life. Confessions, prayer, charities, fastings, pilgrimage, and the 5 acts that should be practiced in particular and even today. Many prohibitions including the prohibition of murder, theft, the prohibition of drinking, and the prohibition of eating pork. There are many prohibitions that are not found in non-Muslim countries, such as the prohibition of drinking alcohol, eating pork, not to mention the prohibition of murder, theft. The distribution of followers of Islam is wide, from the Middle East to Africa, Central Asia, and Southeast Asia, and because of the large number of adherents, it is a religion that will undoubtedly continue to influence the world in the year to come.